Most cartoons end abruptly, and we barely notice their absence. They just stop showing up in the listings and quietly fade away. However, the 1996 The Incredible Hulk animated series faced a different kind of problem. It ended twice. Now, the first ending happened in February 1997, which entailed an absolutely unforgettable 3-part finale. It was serialized, dark, and came with a genuinely emotional punch in the gut. Then, the network stepped in and undid all the hard work Season 1 put in. It stripped the show of everything that made it so interesting and spectacularly haunting, and moved on to another not-so-loud ending 8 months later. Oh, by the way, welcome back to our YouTube channel, guys. Now, here is exactly how one of Marvel's most underrated 90s cartoons ended, and how it almost didn't. The darker side of the Marvel animated universe. By 1996, Marvel's animated universe already had a strong foundation and was well established. For instance, X-Men the Animated Series had already launched in 1992, redefining what a superhero cartoon looked like. Then we also had Spider-Man the Animated Series, which came out in 1994, and of course, we cannot forget Fantastic Four and Iron Man as well, which were running at the same time. Like this, Stan Lee's The Incredible Hulk, an American animated TV series, became the 5th series to become a part of this animated universe, and premiered on UPN on 8th of September 1996. Now, let us look at what sets this series apart from the rest. One of the major highlights has to be the fact that The Incredible Hulk is serialized, unlike the majority of the Marvel shows back then. At least the first season was, and another unusual hook is the no origins part of the show. This show did not assign any episode for Hulk's origins, on how Bruce Banner ended up becoming the Hulk. You're dropped straight onto a running train. You enter the series, and it's already running at a fast pace. And pun intended, because the show begins with the angle of a fugitive on the run. We see Bruce Banner trying to escape from General Thunderbolt Ross and the military, while desperately trying to look for a cure to his Hulk situation. As if General Ross wasn't enough, the leader and his lieutenant, the Gargoyle, are also hunting Banner down, to steal Hulk's infamous gamma power for themselves. All the characters I named right now are all antagonists in this series, with the leader being the main villain. Anyway, you can see the multiple plot lines building up from the first episode itself, and this is the case throughout the 13 episodes, while finally converging to an end in the finale. If you look at it, it seems like a pretty heavy plot, not going to lie. I mean, just look at Spider-Man or even X-Men. They were mostly about exhilarating adventures and emotional character arcs. This series is straight up psychological horror. Bruce Banner's experimental mishap isn't something that can be played out casually like some action hero movie plot. It was treated as a genuine curse. There are tragedies played out in the series, with many close to dying even. Take a look at our villain, the leader, who isn't our usual cartoon-type loose-screw scientist either. The ambitions of this show were high, because who thought that they would sneak in Ghost Rider as well, in episode 5, to hint at a backdoor pilot for a Ghost Rider series, that never actually got made. That type of creativity is rare. Once again, this series does not go by the typical standards of a cartoon or animation, and breaks free from a lot of rules. But this doesn't end well for the show, and you will know why in some time. Now, in the midst of all this, we should not forget the network and its standards. UPN was a sort of amateur back then, just started out fresh, and was already competing with the big 4 broadcast networks with just a fraction of its resources. They needed programs, and Marvel needed a platform, and this seemed like the perfect opportunity for both, after which the obvious happened. This is how the show got its green light, but also the reason why it was modified so easily, the minute the ratings didn't turn out the way they expected it to. Mind you, The Incredible Hulk we are talking about is different from the live-action one. That is a much older one that ran from 1977 to 1982. That series, the one that stars Bill Bixby, has its own era of Hulk, so it can be confusing, but let's not mix it up, because the only relation there is between these two shows is this one voice actor that we are going to talk about next. The cast that carried the darkness. Like I mentioned earlier, this show wasn't a usual light-hearted show, so being able to maintain that standard of voice acting would also not be easy, but the voice cast chosen for this role did an exceptional job. Let's start with Bruce Banner, nicely played by Neil McDonough for all 21 episodes. We have a voiceover that clearly reflects the physicist's haunting intelligence, compassion, but also a quiet desperation. A desperation to free himself from the shackles of his own creation. Then we have our main character, Hulk. Here, we have Lou Ferrigno voicing the Green Hulk for all 21 episodes, the same man who played Hulk on the live-action CBS series opposite to Bill Bixby playing David Banner, which ran from 1977 to 1982, bringing in the sensation that gave Hulk his personality on screen. To voice over the same character after a couple of years is a genius move on the part of the team. This is even more significant because this was the first time that the animated Hulk was getting any spoken dialogue at all. Up until then, he usually only had animal-like grunts or minimal words. So beginning a new thing with Hulk and doing it alongside the very man who defined the characters for many fans is very meaningful and close to the heart for sure. Let's look at what he had to say about playing the part of Hulk in the live action when asked about how he related to the character. It's about power. Every one of us has a little Hulk inside. I was introverted as a child, picked on and beat up. I was frustrated because I was weak and couldn't fight back. I thought if I were powerful like the Hulk, I could defend myself. The Hulk is not just a monster, he's sensitive, and I identified with that. In my opinion, he indeed seems like the best person to play Hulk. Then we come to the Grey Hulk, who was there for 5 episodes in season 2. He was played by Michael Donovan for all 5 episodes. This Hulk was more shrewd, more cunning, and was a morally ambiguous alter ego of Bruce Banner, who was oftentimes even called Mr. Fix-It. This was a third sort of dimension that got added to the already present Banner and Hulk duality, but something many fans possibly don't remember. Then we have Matt Frewer voicing the leader for all 10 episodes. Like spoken about before, Leader is the main villain of this story, one who is madly after the potent gamma powers of Hulk, and thus keeps getting involved in various different schemes. Matt Frewer was nicely able to match the character's right combination of cold intelligence as well as petulance. Then moving forward, we have Mark Hamill voicing the Gargoyle, who was the leader's right-hand man for all 11 episodes. Yes, this is the same Mark Hamill who we know as Luke Skywalker, as well as the voice of Joker in the Batman animated series. He brought a kind of genuine pathos to the Gargoyle's character, which is a very important aspect of him. An accidentally self-mutated scientist whose erratic experiments ended him up with a dwarf body and a massive disfigured head. The reason why I said Hamill brought a kind of pathos to his character is because the Gargoyle genuinely just treads the middle, morally grey ground for most of his life. He is neither a true villain nor a fully structured hero. His compliance with the leader lies in the saddening fact that he is desperately trying to find a cure for his condition as well. But to achieve this, he has to team up with the leader. His compassionate side is evident in the Mortal Bounds episode, where he accidentally releases a gamma virus that ends up infecting many, including Betty Ross, who is Banner's love interest. On seeing this, he immediately gives Banner the antidote, but warns him as well that next time he would not be so generous. So all of this was well portrayed by Mark Hamill. He hit the nail right on its head. Not to forget Rick Jones. This character was portrayed by Luke Perry across all 10 episodes. Back then, Perry was at his peak with being in Beverly Hills 90210 and all. He played one of the very few characters who was grounded in the teenage presence of that show, otherwise filled with monsters and crazy scientists. So his character as a loyal human friend to Banner comes as a respite amongst all the storylines of tragedy and trauma. However, by the end of season 1, he himself gets caught up in messy situations. So if we bring them all together, we end up with an incredibly capable and talented voice crew, who simply seemed overqualified for a Saturday morning cartoon. But this just explains why this show still has such a huge fan following. We see a Star Wars and even a Batman sensation, with a Beverly Hills heartthrob, and a man who was already known as the Hulk. This show had multiple reasons to be as big as it is now. Season 1 and the arc that actually built to something. Now let's dissect the crux of this whole show. This is the season that built the reputation this show has right now. For starters, unlike other 90s children's animated shows, The Incredible Hulk is serialized, meaning the next episode starts off where the previous one left us. So multiple ongoing plot lines move parallel to each other in every episode, instead of resetting every new episode. Keeping this in mind, let's move forward and look at what season 1 was all about. Firstly, throughout the entire season, we can see Betty Ross and Doc Samson working on a gamma nutrient bath, which is essentially a process that would help separate Hulk from Banner, splitting them into 2 different beings that would be much easier to manage. So this becomes the central question of the entire season. So can Bruce Banner be actually cured? Is it actually possible? And will the results come out the way they are expecting? All being relevant questions. In the meantime, we can see the leader scheming and plotting something again. This time he is slowly building up an army of gamma warriors, who've been created from Hulk's own DNA apparently. Side by side, we can see his alliance with the Gargoyle slowly chipping away, when he starts to question and doubt Leader's immoral methods. Although he feels this uneasiness with the leader's way of doing things, he sees no choice but to begrudgingly stick with him, to be able to find a way to his cure. Then comes in episode 7 that brings another major turning point in the show. In the Doomed episode, Dr. Doom makes an appearance and critically injures Jennifer Walters, Banner's cousin. And when Banner realises that she's on the brink of death, he finds no other option but to do a blood transfusion to save her. This process in turn transforms her into the She-Hulk we know of. But unlike Bruce, she doesn't wish to go back to her human form and enjoys the newly gained ability. This serves as a contrast to Banner's desperation to escape his cage, while being next to someone who enjoys it. Another cardinal factor we cannot overlook is the cross-universe guest appearances made by many. For instance, we have Iron Man and War Machine appearing in an episode to help out Rick Jones in finding Banner. Then we see Fantastic Four's Thing's appearance when Banner and Jennifer go to the team to ask for their help with the cure. In the same episode, we see Ogress, one of Leader's minions, attack them, and all of them ending up in a fight from which Banner and Jones later succeed in escaping from. We also see Thor's appearance in the episode of Mortal Bounds. All of these appearances have been voiced by the same voice actors as well, who played the role of these characters originally. These weren't just some gimmicks, they wove the show into a genuine, shared universe that rewarded viewers who followed multiple series. Darkness and Light, the real finale. Now this right here is the most emotional part of the show. The season 1 finale is a 3-part episode titled Darkness and Light, which aired on February 2nd, 9th and 16th respectively in 1997. Originally supposed to air in November 1996, the production delays pushed it to 1997 instead. This finale is, by far, the most dramatic finale in the history of 1990s Marvel animation. And since season 2 was retooled beyond recognition, this finale right here functions as the main emotional ending of this show, whether the creators intended it or not. So here is what happens. Betty and Doc Samson succeed in making a working gamma nutrient bath that would help separate Hulk from Banner, and this is exactly what happens, and they get what they all wanted. But things rarely end in a happy ending for Bruce Banner, because now we see an unrestrained and deranged Hulk running rampant everywhere and destroying things, without Bruce's control on him. This is the exact moment the leader was waiting for so long. A vulnerable Hulk roaming around without any supervision, making it the best time to use his body for his benefit. With Gargoyle's help, the leader places his mind inside Hulk's body and proceeds to attack the Gamma base in the hopes of killing Bruce Banner once and for all. But what actually happens completely diverts from his plan. The leader loses control of Hulk and instead ends up attacking the Gamma reactor in anger. All of this makes the leader flee, but in his absence, Hulk has already destroyed his lab. Seeing this, Banner takes it upon himself to stop Hulk and get him back under control. But all of this just tires him out, and eventually Banner collapses while Hulk runs away from them. Such an unfolding of events made Doc Samson realise that it is best not to separate the two and merge them back into the same body again. So to do so, she and Betty get back to work to make the gamma nutrient bath once again. And after completing it, they find Hulk and bring him to the bath. But when General Ross tries to stop this from happening and interferes, Rick intervenes to prevent any mishaps. But in doing so, he himself falls into the bath, causing the very thing he wanted to avoid, another experimental mishap. He emerges out of the bath as Green Hulk, while Banner turns into the Grey Hulk. That is a twist no one saw coming. It truly is tragic. We see the season end with Grey Hulk wandering in the mountains, and nothing is truly resolved per se. The leader has just faced a small setback. It is not enough to warrant a complete surrender or defeat. So, after 13 grueling episodes of Banner trying to find himself a cure, he still stands here with Hulk, but only a different and trickier one. Now what will he do? Now such an episode is usually just a big turning point in the middle of a series, but instead this became the closest thing to a real ending the show ever produced, because the season that followed was almost a different series entirely. UPN steps in, the retool that changed everything. Now let's talk about when and how the retool happened. After season 1 ended, the network realised something: the show was too dark. And for something meant for the younger audience, this was not a good thing. So UPN issued a documented mandate, reshaping most of the story in season 2. To match the standards for the target demographics, a lot of the darker themes had to be modified. Their method of fixing happened in 2 ways. First, She-Hulk was made a permanent co-star to give material for the female viewers and expand their audience too. As well as, this series was renamed to The Incredible Hulk and She-Hulk, again to gain more female viewers. But this wasn't what made this cartoon less dark. If we look back at the open plot lines from season 1 of Betty's emotional arc, Gabe Jones and his plot, or even the leader and his whereabouts, then you'll notice how in season 2 the team quickly resolved everything, or just dropped it and wrapped everything up. For instance, General Ross, one of the most complex characters of the show, was in a coma for most parts of season 2. All of this sized down season 2, and they ended up giving us just 8 episodes. And along with this, the serialization stopped, and each episode starting having new adventures. Not to forget, the production studio also changed, going from New World Animation to Saban Entertainment. This studio is the company responsible for Power Rangers, along with many other lighter toned action programs of that time. And accordingly, the dark and hopeless tone shifted to a more comedic and light-hearted one, especially after the introduction of She-Hulk as one of the main characters. Her entrance brought in more of a lighter and fun energy, something that was carried well by Cree Summer, who took over the voice of She-Hulk. A certain warmth and wit surfaced through in the show that significantly shifted the show's centre. So seeing all this, the quality of the new season isn't a problem at all. The episodes are all well made and are of high quality, but where the actual problem lies is in the mismatch in the story Season 1 built towards and the one Season 2 actually shows. Because Season 2 even won an Emmy Award for Best Audio Editing, but it cannot be denied that it completely overthrew the intense and captivating story Season 1 had built, and presented us with a very washed over and diluted version of the story. It's almost as if the creativity stopped after Season 1. Mission Incredible, the last episode nobody knew was last. Now, the actual final episode of The Incredible Hulk was the Season 2 finale titled Mission Incredible, which aired on UPN on November 23rd, 1997. The plot is rather simple. A parasite known as the Hybrid tries to take over General Ross, and even succeeds partially before Grey Hulk and She-Hulk intervene. In doing so, the parasite seemingly jumps on Grey Hulk, which makes him lose control of himself. Soon he is seen forcing everyone in escape pods and ejecting him out of the SHIELD installation, and immediately afterwards tries to destroy the whole facility. But when he fails to do so, his explosive anger quite literally yeets the parasite out of his body, and also simultaneously turns him back into the Green Hulk, producing a total win-win situation. To add another win to this, we see General Ross gain back his consciousness and arrive at the scene, and talk with Banner in a fond tone, even referring to him as his future son-in-law. What better day for a man, right? But along with Banner, She-Hulk also has a central light here. Apart from her wit and charm, she also plays to her physical strengths. She, along with the now Green Hulk, pushed the sea base down underwater to mitigate the harm from the explosion about to occur. However, as previously discussed, Season 2 either addresses Season 1 open endings in a haste, or doesn't address them at all. Like what happened to the cure for Banner, or to the leader who was such a primary villain of the show. And obviously, we also have Rick Jones, who had disappeared after turning into the Green Hulk. What happened to him? Even if we talk about Banner, there is no moment shown where he, just takes a minute to take everything in. And look at how far he's come, and the things he's had to go through. No proper farewell scene is shown either. So this ending just felt like any other ordinary episode ending, instead of a show's finale. In short, it felt very underwhelming. It felt like there would be a next episode, but there wasn't. It was truly the end. This is what I'm talking about. The contrast between this ending and the ending of Season 1 is wild. Darkness and Light felt like a gut-wrenching, tragic ending that left us all waiting for the next episodes eagerly, whereas Mission Incredible just felt like a mid-season episode that just happened to air last. So, it is fit to say that the show's real ending happened on February 6th, 1997. This was just an administrative one. Why it really stopped, the business behind the silence. So Season 1 ends, and so does Season 2, but there is no sight of Season 3. So what happened? After Season 2 ended, there have been no public statements from the UPN regarding any new seasons or revivals, but many could see this coming, in the way they rushed everything, and left the series hanging with an incomplete sort of ending. But considering how the network had just taken off in the industry, it would have taken a lot of time to find its stability. So, when you take a step back and look at the whole picture, all of it makes sense. Getting a Season 3 was highly unlikely, so the fact that it stopped suddenly doesn't seem that out of the blue. But the show has still developed a cult following nonetheless, and created a beautiful legacy, especially if you look at the first season and the things it actually is capable of. The second season even won an Emmy Award, so I really don't have to explain myself much, now do I? So that is how the Incredible Hulk animated series happened, and how it ended, and why it did not get revived for another season. And the storyline was no less interesting than any other Marvel plot, so if you want to check out the show and actually understand what I'm talking about, be my guest. Go ahead and definitely watch it. But that is all for today, guys. Don't forget to hit the like and share button, and to subscribe to our channel for more such videos. See you next time.